Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben Matlock.
Yay!
And I'm here, coming at you, quick as lightning and as fucking bad and painful as lightning. Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. We, every week we tell each other stories, and this week I have a story. Boy, do I have a story.
I have a story to tell. I don't know what that was. I'm fucking with my audio settings while we're talking, so
that's a good call.
Trying to contribute. By audio settings, I simply mean the volume in my headset. So
we have one audio setting. Anyone who knows anything about audio editing knows that the only thing I control is volume, pretty much.
Yeah. So yeah. If you haven't listened to the story before, well, I hope you haven't listened to this story before. At least not
I
from
really
us,
fucked up.
Yeah. I'm still we've talked about it a couple times. It's like one of these days, and it'll be me, and it'll be a topic I get like actually super excited about. I'm like, I can't wait to talk about this. So there was this village where everybody just started dancing and they couldn't stop, and you're like, what the fuck, Steve?
That'd be cool to just cycle through our like previous 160 something topics,
but just swap off like whatever topic I covered before you cover now.
Yeah, that actually almost happened this week, and I caught myself just about to start doing the notes for that sniper you did. I can't remember the episode number, but it was
but the Canadian guy, I think he was
basically the fucking walking, talking video game character.
It's a good episode, but we don't know which one, so just go listen to all of them.
Yeah, you're gonna have to dig. I mean, go to our fucking website and just type sniper. We haven't actually had too many of those, surprisingly. Because it's right in our fucking wheelhouse. But this week, I managed to catch myself. Decided we're not at that point where we need to parrot each other. And did a story I'm only kind of sure we haven't done before. So this is about Claudine Longet.
Well, the good news is if we've done it before, if I did it, we won't know because there's no way I would have pronounced that right. So it'd sound like...
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right either, because she was born in France, but one of her parents was American. So maybe Georgette was correct, but it could be Longet for all we know. I'm not sure. So, Claudine was born on January 29th, 1942, which is how we always start these stories for some reason, but I don't really know why.
I do it on purpose because it's like the most boring way. Like it makes it sound like you're starting off as like an actual like biography or something, and then it never goes that way.
But it's so irrelevant. It's like we're not going to throw her a fucking birthday party, so she's old or she's dead or she's both, So since her childhood, she wanted to be an entertainer, which in those days you really didn't have to be specific when you were deciding to be an entertainer.
In fairness, we're like back to that point with influencers or whatever, or
that's
content creators, or you don't do one specific thing. It's just like I do stuff,
right? If Jackass had existed back then, I'm sure you would have a lot more people being very specific.
I don't know. I've seen like guys in these like striped swimsuits jump like 8 stories into like a glass of water. They had Jackass back then. They just didn't call it that.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they called them that, but you couldn't get that in the paper. But it's like, I mean, imagine Claudine trying to like take a shit in a hardware store toilet, while customers go by. It didn't happen. So if people said they wanted to be an entertainer, they usually wanted to be a dancer and an actor, and it usually meant all of that shit wrapped up into one, because nobody could ever just be a good actor. Like, you had to do everything. So she would get her start dancing on stage for tourists at the age of 17, and eventually got some television time, which led to club owner Lou Walters seeing her and deciding to give the young dancer a shot at the Tropicana Hotel and Resort in Las Vegas in 1961. At this point, she was 18, and she would meet 32-year-old Andy Williams, who helped her after her car broke down, which is a classic 60s pickup move, fellas. Fuck up her car and then pretend to try to fix it.
I was going to say that these go one of two ways back then. A guy like helps you fix your car and you get married, or a guy helps you fix your car, then he murders you and hides your head in a toilet. Like one of the...
Yeah. To be fair, this was, I think this predates Ted Bundy a bit, who really made that a thing.
He popularized
he fucked it up for us normal guys who were just, stalking people and breaking their cars, trying to get a date. So Andy and Claudine would get married on December 15th, 1961 in L.A., which seems like a shitty place to go get married. Like, if you want loud, bright, superficial weddings, you're already in Vegas. Like, right. I don't know why you would go to Los Angeles to do it. But maybe it was like career related, because Andy Williams was a popular singer and entertainer in his own right, having his own show.
Country music, I think.
Yeah, having his own show, Andy Williams Special Victims Unit. No, it was the Andy Williams show. Him and Claudine had 3 children together. Claudine would go on to start recording her own music and would appear on Andy's show occasionally. The couple were even friends with Robert Kennedy and his wife, and they even had plans to have dinner the night he was killed. History does not say if they still went out and got dinner after that tragic night.
I like to think they were waiting in the restaurant, like, where the fuck is that asshole? He better be dead.
And fucking Andy's like, well, I don't care. I'm ordering. Fuck this. In 1969, her and Andy would have their 3rd child together, but just 1 year later, the two would legally separate.
What?
Yeah.
A Hollywood couple that couldn't make it work?
I know. It's very disappointing. We were all rooting for these people I just heard about 2 days ago. In 1972, Claudine met Croatian-American Vladimir Spider Sabic of the U.S. ski team at a celebrity race in Bear Valley, California. Him and Claudine had a meeting.
So Spider an actual thing, or did you throw that in there?
It's his actual nickname.
You can't date anybody with Spider in their name. I'm sorry.
I mean, spoilers. Turns out you can't. Not without it going horribly wrong.
You find out he was an actual spider in a human suit. That's what I'm expecting.
I don't know why you would call a fucking, or call a skier that, though.
Because you say that and then you watch him go down. He never wanted to be a skier. He couldn't do it. So his arms and legs were all flayed out the whole time.
I was gonna say, you're fucking, sort of skittering from side to side, losing your balance. It doesn't paint a very nimble picture.
You're shitting yourself the whole way down, and everybody's like, wow, look at that guy. He's got style.
He's just like a spider scurrying across a web. I don't think he understands you're not supposed to take steps. But him and Claudine had immediate chemistry, which a friend described as movie-like or akin to nuclear fusion, which I know sounds very exciting to a lot of romantics out there, but Chernobyl was also very fucking exciting.
Yeah, nuclear fusion's a pretty violent process that leaves just toxic waste.
You need a lot of fail-safes for nuclear fusion. Otherwise, it's super fucking risky. And you have to be very smart to navigate it, which these two were neither.
It sounds like that friend just is one of those people that wants to sound smarter than they are, so they're coming up with all these analogies. It was like a movie or nuclear fusion or a pineapple.
It's very appropriate.
Yeah.
Like I said, like nuclear fusion's dangerous. So were they. So when they met, Claudine was immediately smitten, and the two became very close really quick, and Claudine relocated to Sabich's place, which is just, it's probably not the right way to pronounce it, but I really like Sabich.
The spider's den.
The spider's den in Aspen. Claudine would move over there fully after snagging a $2.1 million settlement from her divorce in 1975. Which we'll touch on it, but Andy Williams didn't seem like he ever did anything wrong by her. That seems like a lot of money, especially in the 70s.
I was going to say, you said 2.1?
2.1 mil.
Yeah, so in today's money, that would be a ass load.
That would be that Amazon bank. So at this time, if you were hanging out with a guy called Spider, you were getting a full 5-star Aspen experience. Countless parties, cocaine, and pretty much just those two, because that's all there is to do in Aspen.
Snow and snow.
That's right. It was a pretty cliche party culture that you would think somebody who seemed to have the fame and status aspirations of Claudine, like you think she would fit right into it. But Claudine was actually easily jealous and once threw a wine glass at Spider's head in one of their many fights. She had even forbidden him from attending a best breast party, which I know some would say is a reasonable jealousy, but look at it from Sabich's point of view. His nickname's Spider. He's really handsome. He's a wealthy skier who loves partying and cocaine. Who did you think you were dating?
I'm poor, short, fat, and ugly. If I get invited to a best breast contest, I'm sorry, I gotta go.
I have shit, yeah, I'm needed.
The only problem is I'd get there and find out that they invited me as like one of the contestants. I'd be like, oh well, I'm still here.
I can win this thing.
Should have told me, I would have waxed.
I didn't know that, you kind of sprung it on me, but I think I got a shot. So they would regularly butt heads until March 21st, 1976, when Spider came home from skiing and was in the process of getting undressed, about to take a shower. Claudine entered with a World War II model Luger pistol and shot Sabich in the stomach. An ambulance was called, and patrol officer William Baldridge arrived to find Sabich slumped over and near death. He would end up dying on the way to the hospital, hopefully coked out of his fucking gourd, I imagine.
I don't understand this tactic. If you want to murder your husband Spider and he's getting in the shower, just rinse him down the drain. Da-da-da.
I'm going to let that sit. I have no idea where that fucking came from, but you're in trouble.
You've never... Oh, come on. I've watched spiders down many a drain.
God damn, that was awful. I need to recover. So Claudine claimed that the pistol misfired as Sabich was teaching her how to use it, which, if I'm in my underwear about to hop into the shower, I'll stop what I'm doing to explain the mechanics. I'll surely stop to explain the mechanics of a fucking Luger to my crazy, jealous girlfriend. Nothing weird about that story.
In fairness, as somebody who's been married for a while and with Tara even longer, I could see her fucking doing this. She picks the worst possible times to ask you to do something. Like, I could be putting out a kitchen fire and she'd be like, oh, can you run in there and get me another box of tissues? It's like, no. Well, but see, that's the difference. I guess I'd say no. And her story is like, yeah, he was almost like literally 1 foot soaking wet because he was stepping in and he decided to give me a pistol lesson.
Yeah. Okay, I could see somebody being crazy enough to fucking ask for firearm lessons and just at random, but the first lesson is stop pointing that at me.
Yeah, that's honestly, that's like the first 5 lessons.
Yeah, 1, put it down. 2, don't ever point it at anyone. 3, put it down. But okay, so Andy Williams, of all people, was the only person to really rush to Claudine's defense. And just sort of showed up there as like support when the rest of Aspen was like pissed that Claudine had killed their favorite Coke boy.
He could get that Coke from the top of the hill to the bottom faster than anybody.
As quick as a spider. Why did Andy do this? Like, maybe to get some of that fucking money back? I don't know. It's, cause Andy Williams, like, he always played a pretty clean image to the public, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of him. I couldn't name a song or anything, and I kind of forgot he was also an actor.
Yeah.
Although at one point I knew that. But yeah, I pictured him, from what I know about him, he is one of those
very
just old timey,
just very non-controversial. Like, I'm sure there's skeletons in everyone's closet, but he avoided a lot of controversy, but he kind of put himself in photo ops for this. Just so there's this weird chapter where he's like defending a murderer, or what everyone assumed was a murderer. So Claudine's alibi kind of being shit. She was charged with felony reckless manslaughter, officially on April 8th, 1976. Her trial would begin in 1977. Claudine remained steadfast throughout the trial that the gun fired by accident. However, the story changed to her claiming she found the Luger and jokingly pointed it at him while making bang-bang noises when it suddenly fired. So, very
well,
realistic.
Everybody knows Lugers are sound activated.
So, very realistic bang-bang noises would end up coming out.
I like to think that that's how Lugers are fired. So, during World War II, you just had a bunch of people running around going, bang, bang, bang.
It's like in Hot Fuzz. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but they're like, there's a big gunfight at the end, and like guys shooting a real gun, but saying bang as he's shooting it. Friends of Sabich reported that he was planning on breaking up with Claudine and that she knew it. Sabich wanted to do cocaine and ski and cocaine and maybe take the day off from skiing now and then to do some cocaine, it's...
Why not ski and cocaine at the same time? I mean,
you gotta put your passion somewhere, Claudine had, children, so she and her kids didn't really fit into the model Aspen bachelor lifestyle.
Yeah, see, I was kind of wondering about that when you said she got with this guy and he was like partying and blah, 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 and she... my first thought was, but she's got 3 kids. And my second thought was, when has that ever stopped anybody from?
I mean, yeah, it's
a lot of really bad parents out there. So
yeah, and there's a lot of fucking dudes like Spider who are like, yeah, I don't give a, I'm not going to be invested at all in the fact she has kids, but I don't care if she has. Yeah, they're her problem. Sure, move in with me. But because Spider was pretty much guaranteed to break up with her, you kind of had your motive. Allegedly, Claudine kept a diary that even pointed out that Sabich had planned to attend a party without her that very night, which was making her suspicious.
Ooh.
Claudine said in her testimony, "I picked up the gun and walked toward the bathroom, saying to Spider, 'I would like you to tell me about this gun.'" Which I love that Spider is a quote. Like, that's how she... Everyone called this fucker Spider for some reason. And again, if a girl makes the request, "I would like you to tell me about this gun," when you're half naked heading for the shower, I would just assume you're not long for this earth. Like there's bad timing, but that's, that feels planned. She added that Sabich assured her that the gun wouldn't fire because enough cocaine apparently makes him an authority on old World War II pistols and what they were actually built to do, I guess. But Claudine claimed that after she had shot him, she was doing everything to try to keep him alive, even attempting mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, but that she didn't know how.
And that seems like a futile exercise when you shoot somebody in the stomach.
Thank you.
Like, I don't know. Maybe. But
yeah, that's what I wrote down. I was like, I don't think that remotely works for a gut shot.
Oh, no, I cut my leg off with a chainsaw. Yeah. Let me give you mouth to mouth.
I'm not running out of air. I'm running out of blood, you bitch. A defense witness testified that the safety mechanism on the gun was faulty and that the firing mechanism was greasier than it should have been, so an accidental discharge was actually pretty likely with the firearm. But the best defense, that was a fair case, but the real best defense in court is an inept offense. And the prosecution made a series of procedural errors, which is very true to the theme of this show, where we're like, what the fuck? How'd they get away with it? This is how, because the justice system's made by humans, and they do stupid shit, where the prosecution never brought up Claudine's diary, and more importantly, they never brought the fucking gun to court.
Well, yeah.
In a manslaughter charge, where a man has been shot, you didn't bring the fucking weapon.
Well, you know what happened? They tried to play it off like that was part of their tactics, and it was just dumb tactics. But it's really like Bill was supposed to bring it, and Bill thought that Fred was going to grab it, and so they got there that day, and they're like, "You've got the gun, right?" It's like, "Yeah, you've got the gun." Fuck.
Yeah, it's like, we joke, but that's literally how shit like this happens. Like, if you ever fucked up at your job in a silly way, where there's very low stakes, they make the same mistakes, but it's way more important. So the police also drew Claudine's blood without a court order. If you don't know, that's a violation of rights. And it was probably unnecessary. Like, they did find cocaine in her system, but it was Spider's house. You probably didn't need her blood to determine that. So it ended up just being more evidence that they couldn't use.
That's curious to me too, because you said this was in the 60s?
70s.
70s.
Yeah, she shot the dude in 76.
76. I think it was the 80s when DNA, profiling.
I think it was more about proving drugs in the system than anything.
Which doesn't really prove anything anyway.
But if somebody's on cocaine, you could make the case that they're not in their right head, which would have made them more likely to kill them in a fucking fit of jealous rage.
I think that would almost help the accidental discharge thing more, though, because you'd be like, they were high, they were coked out of their mind. They didn't
To be fair, though, this was a manslaughter charge. It wasn't.
Oh, that's true.
They weren't going for murder. But anyway, it doesn't matter because now it's we can't admit that. So, as far as the jury is concerned, they're like, well, she never did drugs, which is also stupid.
I mean, she was living with a guy named Spider. That tells you.
They slept on what I assume is a mountain of cocaine. The only evidence they had at the end of the day was the autopsy report, which suggested that Spider was bent and facing away from Claudine when the gun went off, which contradicted her version of the events, based off positioning. The jury wasn't convinced. One juror, 27-year-old Daniel DeWolf, said, "I wouldn't want her to go to prison. Heavens no. By no means is she the type of person who should be in jail. I don't think she's a threat to society."
See, and that's what kind of surprises me that this case like even went through scrutiny at all back then, because we were still almost at that point where they're like, oh, women couldn't commit cold-blooded murder.
Yeah, and not
attractive ones that are actresses.
And my bigger take from that quote is like, I don't know anything about Daniel Day-Wolf or what kind of man he was or would turn out to be, but I'm going to take a wild guess that if we were talking about a black guy in Claudine's position, he would not have made that quote. Just saying.
Yep.
Like there's always double standards, and what are you going to do? But you know, I think like you said, there's definitely, you know, she was a movie star, TV star, and famous person, and when you see somebody on TV and in movies and shit, you kind of you know, it's like the O.J. Simpson thing, where it's like there's probably people back then who couldn't wrap their mind around him, you know, possibly doing those things, because all they know from him is Naked Gun, you know?
Right. You picture them as their characters, especially if you like their work.
Yeah.
We see that online all the time, like celebrities that make electric cars and shit that do stuff that people will just like jump through fucking hoops to defend because they've built up that this person's great in their mind.
Yeah.
And instead of admitting that like maybe you're wrong or you don't actually know the person, it's easier to be like, oh no, they couldn't have done that.
Yeah, like it happens a lot on Twitter. There's a weird celebrity worship thing, and I get it when there's a ton of famous people out there who are shitheads. It's refreshing to like latch on to somebody who's successful and doesn't seem like a piece of shit. And then you find out like, oh, they do shitty things. You know, it's like some of my favorite comedians and actors and shit, they end up like being landlords or shilling NFTs, and I hate that, but it's...
Yeah, at least some of that stuff is like minor shitty things, like... imagine like being a Kevin Spacey fan and then all that stuff comes out. Like that can be hard to if it's bad enough. I think most people are like, nope, that guy's a fucking creep.
I would at least, you know, if you were a Kevin Spacey fan, at least be glad that, you know, his career ended now, where he kept doing the same Southern lawyer accent for every fucking role, and he stopped trying years ago. So it's not like we're missing anything new. I know a lot of people wanted House of Cards to end, but that show sucked.
Yeah, but there's a couple of celebrities out there that if like bad stuff came up about them, it would be. But I like to think that they won't. But if it did, I'd like to think that I'd be a big enough person to be like, well, they're crappy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's where I have to be with this shit too. It's like. It's crazy. I didn't even recognize that it was Claudine, but she was in a movie called The Party. That was with Peter Sellers playing an Indian man in one of his many very racist, very, very racist roles. And she plays this really like soft-spoken singer and stuff. And it's like, if that's all you knew about her, you would never think she'd be involved in like a manslaughter / murder story. Like nothing about her appearance.
Yeah, if you already have that notion about her, and then you hear her story, and then you have the inept prosecution not being able to bring anything, it sounds like, of real potency.
Yeah. So anyway. After the 4-day trial, jurors deliberated for a few hours before finding her guilty of criminally negligent homicide, which sounds worse than a manslaughter charge to me. But
I thought they were fairly much the same. Well, I guess manslaughter is doing something that you know could result in death. You maybe didn't intend it, but
maybe it's the same
like a
thing.
Reasonable person. Criminal negligent homicide would be like you just did something so careless.
Yeah.
Like you. So there's a slight difference, and I bet there's a big difference in sentencing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because this was fucking barely a sentence.
Don't do it again, Missy.
Pretty much, like, and again, just, you can point to anyone, flip through a phone book, everybody else would get a harder sentence than what she got. This is fucking Pablo Escobar shit, where she got a 30-day sentence in a prison of her choosing and a $250 fine. Further, she ended up hooking up with her defense attorney, Ron Austin, and immediately vacationed to Mexico and would serve out most of her 30-day sentence in prison on the weekends.
It's like a DUI thing. They offer that.
Yeah, like, she did not get, like prison sucks, but, like, fuck, I go to work 5 days a week, and
well,
that's
and you
so
can
much
imagine
worse.
how she was treated in that prison too. It was. I'm sure she was not just thrown into the general population to fend for herself. It was.
Yeah, I mean, and
it sounds like in-school suspension.
You weren't there long enough for real bad shit to happen. You, like, had to shit with somebody else in the room once.
Probably not even that. I bet they would escort her to her own private bathroom.
She got to use the guard bathroom.
Guard, I must use the loo.
The toilet.
I don't know. She's British now, yeah.
So, yeah, the Sabich family obviously wasn't satisfied with that. And they filed a $780,000 civil suit against her, which would get settled out of court. Confidentiality clause prevented Claudine from ever writing or speaking about the incident, because they knew she was already supposedly writing a book.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the first thing that happens. Book, and then a movie, and then maybe an album where every song's about it. The title of my book was How to Get Away with Murder.
Yeah, oddly enough, it was If I Did It, and it got shut down. Spider's brother Steve bashed Claudine pretty hard, saying that Spider accomplished so much, I assume cocaine, in his life. Claudine accomplished only two things: marrying Andy Williams and getting away with murder.
And being in a bunch of movies and stuff, it sounds like. I mean,
and being in very racist movies with Peter Sellers.
It's funny though that it was at a time when there were people that probably genuinely thought like that the skiing star outweighed like being a movie star, and now like name one downhill skier.
I mean, to be fair, Claudine's fame was all she was a popular dancer, and then she met Andy Williams, and she wouldn't be the first or the last person who was famous based off who she knew. But that's what made her famous. Say what you will about Spider and how good at drugs he was, but he was probably a pretty damn good skier to get to that point.
Yeah.
So
that blows my mind too, becoming like this kind of, even if it's just like maybe local to Colorado, but getting to that level where you're like this like coke kingpin celebrity party guy by skiing. Like, that seems like the long road to that lifestyle.
To cover our bases, all these cocaine jokes I have made, that's not totally supported. There's definitely cocaine involved, but I've definitely painted the picture that Spider fucking was like a cartel head by the way I've talked about him. I just assumed he was an enthusiast, which... he should be. He was a successful skier.
We'll find out, like, all the stuff that you read about him doing coke was Coca-Cola. Like, he just really liked his pop.
Yeah. She threw a Coca-Cola can at his head and killed him. So everybody connected to this troubled couple, and the case would come out, pretty much confirming all the issues of their relationship. The prosecutor, a man named Frank Tucker, maintained his certainty that it wasn't just manslaughter, claiming that he knew Claudine shot Spider and meant to do so, maintaining that it was a clear murder case crippled by sloppy police work, which is certainly true. It's also true that the prosecutor should bring the fucking murder weapon. to the
yeah,
trial.
I was going to say, that seems like a really bad, like, you fuck up your case, and then you're like, I'm sure she did it. It's like, if only somebody competent had gotten this case.
Did they hand you the file walking into the courtroom? Like, fucking do your homework, dude. Like, all that shit should have been taken care of. Like, the only thing he couldn't control was the fucking blood test, which you didn't need. You did not need it to prove she had coke.
Yeah, he says it's sloppy police work. From what I'm hearing, they fucked up one thing that really was kind of circumstantial. Well, not circumstantial, but like I said, when you brought it up, it kind of gives you an idea of what mental. But again, if he's trying to prove premeditated murder, having the blood test that says she's coked out of her mind or something really hurts that doesn't help you. Because if somebody's planning on murdering somebody, I
don't know how it's like specific.
Well, I mean, I guess
trying to be like, as far as like, was it premeditated or was it a crime of passion, in the moment thing? Either way, they fucked up and she got off pretty goddamn light for definitely probably killing a man.
No, she killed a spider, though.
That's true.
That was really the weakness of the prosecution's case. They couldn't convince the jury that spider was a human and not an insect.
A fucking gut shot to some Sheila fucker hiding in her shower. I would give her a medal, honestly. Claudine never really regained any fame after that, but she was a big enough name now in Aspen that apparently she never wanted to leave. Ron Austin...
She opened a gun store selling...
Well, her attorney divorced his wife, and the two of them got married in 1985. Supposedly, they still live on Aspen's Red Mountain together. So she's like 80 years old now.
So we can go talk to her, and then she'll shoot us in the gut.
Yeah. I can go buy cocaine off her right now.
I like how you say could, as if you haven't done so already.
Yeah.
That was part of your research into the story.
She ran the Silk Road, and then the government fucked that up. So yeah, that's Claudine's story. It's kind of crazy. Like, since childhood, she wanted to be famous and shit, and now it's like, well, you have a key moment that you will be noteworthy for long after you're gone. But probably not what you wanted to get famous for.
What's crazy to me is I've never heard of a celebrity giving up after murdering just one person. Like, I was fully expecting her to get remarried to this defense attorney, then him ending up accidentally shot, and then
we've done too many Black Widow stories on here because that is the natural arc of like, oh, one boyfriend or husband died, you'll kill them all.
Well, then, in fairness to that one juror where he says, oh, I don't see her needing to go to prison. She's not a danger to society. He was right. She didn't kill anybody else.
That we know.
Like,
nobody's been up to Red Mountain to see if Ron Austin's okay in years. How fucked up is that? Like, there's a place called Red Mountain. What kind of fucking Middle Earth shit is that? Like,
I guess it's that. I was picturing more like, and this is way too on the nose, but Red Dead, like John Marston lives up on Red Mountain.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's, I don't know.
Anything works. It doesn't sound real, is my point.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like that anytime anything has mountain in the name of the place.
I think we talked about that when we had a story that brought up Blue Mountain.
Like, we're going to hit all the colors of the mountains, people. Don't worry. Stick around long enough.
Yeah, that's our story this week, and
I'm sticking to it.
I'm not sticking. I take no responsibility for it. I wasn't there for the events, and I didn't write the shit. So,
you know how like some shows do like end of year recaps or best of shows? We'll just have to have like our special episode will be like one giant retraction or corrections episode.
All I did to this story was I tastefully added cocaine just to make it pop. You know?
Well, I feel like anytime you add cocaine to a story, it's tasteful, though. Like,
yeah, oh yeah.
That's how you class up the place.
Yeah, I've been gumming this shit since we started. I feel great. And I'll feel better when I have a real problem next week. Tune in when I'm out of money, but I need more.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'll be like, yeah, welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson. And you'll be like, I'm Ben Matlock, and on this show we do stories and stuff, and we tell stuff, and we're going to tell stuff today, and what do you have today, Steve? And I'll be like, whoa.
Red Mountain is just what happens when you've done so much coke you get a nosebleed. All right. Yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
So, see ya.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Don't go shooting people in the gut now, you hear?
Well, if you can find a Luger, what else can you do?